What is going on YouTube? Thank you so much, ladies, gentlemen, and children of all ages for tuning in to this brand new season of The Story Of right here on Bouey Films. The only place you're going to find it is right here, this channel. Hit subscribe. Fridays, 10 p.m. You guys know the deal. We are live, baby. We live. Like I said, this is a brand new season, season 8, Ocho. Brand new season, biggest season yet. So you guys want to hit subscribe, stay on top of things. And as always, we are joined with a brand new guest. She is an aspiring tall person. Probably has a bigger than average forehead size.
Nice.
Family to me, myself and I. The Story Of Carmen Hernandez. Carmen, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm over here, having my heater on and trying my best to keep my toes warm in the Michigan weather, but it keeps getting harder every single year.
I believe it. That Michigan winter is not a joke. Speaking of winter and no jokes, I'm also joined here, as always. This could not be possible without him, my co-host. This man does a million shows right here on Bouey Films. He does a million other things for his film company. A lot of people might disagree, but he is not completely useless. He can be used as a bad example. My good friend and co-host, Michael Bouey. What's up, Mike?
Well, thank you, Manny. And yes, we've done so many seasons, and I'm looking forward to this one. You're right, it's one of the biggest ones. You brought a family member on here, and we're going to learn the story of Carmen. And I know you got a lot of family members, but right now, I feel like I'm just overwhelmed. You, your cousin, it's a lot of Hispanics here. I have a whole crew that can help clean up after the show, maybe make a few beds, whatever it takes. I'm so excited. Manny, I know you can't get the top of the bed, but you can at least sweep or something underneath it. However, here we are, season 8. Another exciting season. First episode, Carmen. Thank you for being here first and foremost. I don't know much about you. I know like a small snippet. And I'll say that even that is mind-blowing to me. So I'm looking forward. This is all like brand new. I can't wait to jump into it. This season, this episode, the first episode, we kind of want to get to know you and what you're about. So I don't know where you're from, where you're born, your family life, school life, all that. Kind of break it down. Tell us a little bit about you.
So I was born in Chicago, Illinois in April 25th, 1999. I barely made that 90s mark, so I'm kind of grateful that, I have that little, I guess, treasure piece to be part of the 90s kids. Barely made it, only a few months in, but it's the time that counts. Any time that counts. My birth certificate says 1999. I'm going to go with it. I'm a tourist, so anything with food interests me. I love a good nap, and I love me a good art museum, and those are my favorite things in the world right now. So I have, I believe, 3 older siblings on my mom's side and a little brother. And then on my dad's side, I have 3 other older siblings and no younger siblings. So I only have that little rascal that keeps bothering me. He stole the spotlight.
Why'd you say it like that? I got 3 older siblings, I believe.
I believe, you never know. With the being Mexican, okay. There might be one in hiding. So
I already know those kinds of stories.
You don't. No, you don't.
So tell me about your childhood. What was it like growing up?
So to be honest with you,
Chicago, did you grow up in Chicago, or were you just born there?
I was only born in Chicago, Illinois. Now I do visit to this day. I have a lot of family members over there, so I'm very connected to my roots in Chicago, but I was raised in Ypsilanti, Michigan.
Shouts out, Ipsy. So your parents, who, if the viewers at home don't already know, are also family members of mine. They were living in Chicago. How did you end up being born in Chicago? Because I wasn't born in the States, but right. You were born in Chicago. So how did you end up being born in Chicago?
So my mom immigrated from a small state in Mexico, where Manny's currently in.
Okay, all right. Don't be telling the people that. The viewers don't need to know where I'm at. Okay, go ahead. Continue.
We can tell. We saw the donkey walk by in the background.
All right. First of all, yeah.
Reyes Magos took a turn and visited Manuel. But my mom immigrated from Mexico to Chicago. I'm not sure what year, to be honest with you, but she immigrated with 3 kids, which are my older siblings. I have 2 older sisters and an older brother. And she came with my uncles and met them here in Chicago, Illinois. Now, my dad, I know, is from Jalisco, Mexico, but I'm not very in touch with my dad's side at all. And he was a business owner in Chicago, Illinois. So he had a taqueria. And when my mom moved to Chicago...
I'm sorry. I don't know if you had something in... he had a... What did he have?
A taqueria.
What is that?
It's a taco, like a taco place, like a home restaurant for Hispanics.
I mean, yeah, ours is like 3 letters
you've
long,
never
K,
been to a
F, and C. So I've never heard of that one. Okay.
Yeah, so he owned a restaurant in Chicago, and my mom started working there. And my mom was married, and my father was married, and they had, as what was it, Jada Smith said, they had
entanglement.
An entanglement with each other, and that's how I came to be.
Wait. For the viewers at home, so let me put the math together, because I'm good at math. So your mom, was she married or dating somebody?
She was married with 3 kids. So she was married
with 3 kids. And your dad was married or dating someone?
He was married with 3 kids as well. Yeah.
He was married with 3 kids. Married with children.
Yeah.
Unintended. And so we call it cheated. Jada calls it entanglement. They behind their partner's back.
I'm not sure about specific details. I know that my siblings' father knew about it, and my dad's wife suspected but didn't know fully. But then obviously I was made, and so they obviously had to have known by the time that April. So I'm not sure how much time.
Did they cause them to come together and leave their partner, or are they still kind of with their partner, just with another child being you?
They broke up with their partners, I believe. So they weren't with their partners, and then they were together for a while. But my dad was very known for trafficking drugs and like being part of the, I guess, gang affiliated in Chicago.
Oh Lord Jesus, I'm an associate now.
And I heard this information recently, but he mentioned it to me, so this is like 100% true. And he I guess he got into something happened with like other gang members, and my mom had to flee Chicago and come to Ann Arbor with some family to make sure that we were safe. And he fled to another state as well.
So they're not currently in the same state?
No, they are not currently together or anything. They're not in the same state. And my father is back with the woman that he was with before my mom. And my mom is no longer with the person that she was with when before I was made.
Do you still talk to your dad though?
I not at the moment. So he's the kind of man, and this is like me speaking all facts, like no disrespect to him as a person or anything, but as a father, he didn't do a very good job with me because he wasn't there for anything that I had accomplished or any of like my goals, or even growing up. I visited him once or twice when I was younger, but not to the point where we're very close. I tried to visit him this past summer. I believe it was September. I spent the entire month with him where he lives, and it just proved all of my suspicions that he wasn't the best type of person that I wanted to be around. So we're not speaking right now, yeah. But I do acknowledge him as the person who obviously created me and, as the reason why I'm here today.
So
how old were you?
Sorry, so I was just finishing that off. So you grew up in a single parent household with your mom. Your mom basically raised you. Were the other kids either on her side or his side inside the household? How was that being inside that single parent household with or without other siblings being there?
So I did live with my mom and my 3 older siblings. The person that she was with prior to, the cheating when I was made. So my older siblings, his father actually stepped up and took care of me growing up. And so I'm still in contact with him today. I call him dad, and he is the biggest father figure I have towards my life, and I'm very grateful for him, actually. Although a lot of stuff did happen growing up, what we will talk about in, maybe further down the line, but he is my father, and he was a bigger man than my biological father was, and really stepped up and put his pride aside and made sure that I had food on the table and clothes on my back. So I really do appreciate him.
I like that answer. And I got to speak on that because, Carmen knows and Michael knows. But maybe for the viewers that don't know, I also grew up with a stepfather who was the biggest man in my eyes. So
everyone's the biggest man compared to
compared to your forehead, Michael, and the size of your head. But what I wanted to ask Carmen was, at what age did you realize that entanglement had been going on? When did you realize, like, oh, my parents, sort of went the wrong way about doing this? Or when did you realize about that entanglement? What age?
I believe it was around like my teenage years. I didn't have a lot of contact with my dad because my siblings didn't get along with him. He tried to very much manipulate me and tell me that my mom was the reason why we weren't in contact with each other, and even went as far as saying that my sisters and the people who actually took care of me, my mom including, were witches, and that they were poisoning my brain and telling me lies about him because he wouldn't reach out. And that as a teenager, the phone goes both ways, as many people have heard. Telling that to your child growing up is not an excuse for you not to be in their life. It obviously takes away from the responsibility of you as a parent. And that's something I really found out. And I found out about the entanglement because, growing up and knowing that my mom never hid the fact that the person who I called dad wasn't my biological dad, but that, I still had contact with my biological father. I think for a couple of months or like a year, I'm not sure how long, he sent child support, but then it stopped very quick and the letters stopped, and it just went to the point where I thought I was the reason why. And as I grew up and as my mom never withheld any type of information, I kind of realized hey, obviously we aren't the problem. You're a grown man who still doesn't know how to communicate, and that's not something that you're going to disrespect my family on. As far as the entanglement, and when I found out around the teenage years, and I kind of noticed because obviously the person who I called dad wasn't my dad, and my mom told me that. And like I mentioned before, I would have a little bit of contact with my biological father, and I kind of put two and two and said, obviously, they aren't together now, but they were at a certain time, and that's how I was come to be.
Okay. Now, when you talk about your parents, specifically your biological parents, your mom and your dad, you talk about them both leaving Chicago for various reasons, right? Who did you end up going with, and where did you go when you fled Chicago, so to speak?
Yeah, so my mom, I believe, came to a certain city where one of our uncles lives, mi tío Moy, and he lived with him for a while, and I was with my older siblings, and this is what they've told me. I don't remember a lot of it. And then we came to Ann Arbor, and we lived in Ypsilanti, Ann Arbor, in between the lines of those two splitting cities, but we never really left. And we've been here ever since. Yeah. So I lived with my mom, as well as my older siblings' father would come in, and he lived with us on and off, but he would always, watch out for me and take care of me. And my mom was mostly working most of my childhood. So I would have to go to my older sister to be the mother figure that was there when my mom was busy working.
What is the age difference between you and your siblings? You refer to them as older siblings, but what is the age difference? Give us an idea, so to speak.
So I have an older sibling, and her name is Evelyn, and she was, I believe, 12 years old when I was born. And then there's Josue, which is my older brother. And I'm not sure the age difference. I believe he's 30, so he was probably 8 when I was born. And then Jessica, which she was, I'm not sure how old, but I believe she's around her 28, 27, around late 20s. Yeah.
Okay. And then after...
Sorry, not to cut in. I was just thinking if this question is something I should savor till later, because I'm just looking at this is the season 8 of Story of, and we've learned so much about things that people kind of deal with inside of their family as they grow up. And so to me, I wanted to kind of know if the definition of family evolved from childhood to adulthood based on the things that have happened inside of your life. But I don't know if that's something I should savor for, future episodes.
I definitely feel like I can answer it now. I feel that, to me right now, I feel like it has the same energy and feeling when I say family. I feel like when I was little, I definitely saw family as Manny and his mom and our uncles, because my mom was one of 14 children. So I have a very...
I'm sorry. My good ear. Yeah. My good ear. What'd you say?
13 uncles.
Come and say what? Come and say what? Okay.
Yeah. So it's a very big family. But as we started to grow older, that family kind of like separated a little bit. We're definitely still in touch. And right now we are a lot more united than we used to be in the past other years. But it's a lot of us. And I honestly can tell you that I don't even know how many cousins I truthfully have. But regarding now, I feel like I don't think it's changed. I always, as a Hispanic and more specifically Mexican, when I think of family, I think of uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews, stuff like that. And I still view it as very family-oriented Mexican culture. Like, I think of richness when I think of family, and I still to this day do. Since I was little, I noticed right away that obviously being in not so diverse, but diverse enough to notice that other Hispanics were the only people that I related to when I spoke about family, and seeing that, Emily next to me only had 2 cousins and 1 brother, and I had 30 or 40 people coming to the house for Day of the Dead and for Christmas and for all that stuff. So I very much am grateful. Since I was little, I noticed my gift of having one of the biggest families, I would say, in
And I think Michael can speak on that. You may not know this, but Michael is Black.
I did not know.
Black people be having big families too, Michael. Black people be having big families too. I know you know about that, Michael. I know you know about that.
We try to stay away from the baby mama's side, so the mama drama.
Yeah, I can feel that. But let's talk about your education. Education is important right here in Bouey Films, the story of. We care about education. Where did you go to school? Did you go back to Chicago for school, or did you just stay in Michigan throughout your schooling?
I mostly stayed in Michigan. I went to Estabrook Elementary here in Ypsilanti, Michigan, and I stayed for those 6 years because they added an extra year on 5th grade. They were like, hey, let's add an extra year onto elementary school, and I stayed for 6th grade there, and then went to Ypsilanti Middle School, and then I went to Ypsi High, and I transferred to Huron High School where Manuel went. And
that's out Huron.
Shout out my River Rats, but I switched in the middle of 11th grade, and I graduated there in 2017. I went to WCC for a couple of years on a scholarship, and since COVID started and since I noticed that college sucks, I have not gone, but am planning to go back. So
I hate to jump that far into the college years, but since you bring it up, I just wanted to ask, what did you go there for?
I originally went for nursing, but I don't like people, so I would rather not work with anyone at all and just be by myself. So I think what I will go back for is business, or something to have to do with business or art, and just educate myself where I can use the degree for anything that I want in upcoming year.
What do you mean you don't like people? I mean, half the world is your family.
Okay, first of all,
a lot of brothers and sisters and cousins and nephews and brothers.
I actually, in fact, I believe in 3rd grade, when my grandpa passed away, I went to school in Mexico. So I went there for, I believe, 3rd grade, and I'm not sure how long, but I did go to school in Mexico, and I think it was one of my favorite times ever. It was amazing, and I just think back and I just have like happy thoughts of being energetic and being young, like a little girl, and the food over there is amazing. So I cannot wait to go back. I'm planning to go back this summer.
I think that every school, childhood, we have words that are associated with us. You know, you have the jock, you have the popular guy, you have the short midget, whatever.
No.
You have,
No.
you know. So, what were the things that would best describe your personality? And did you do sports? Were you athletic?
So in middle school, I did basketball and I was defense and I really enjoyed it. So I had a lot of fun. And actually what I'm really grateful for is when I was younger, around those like preteen years, I really wasn't worried about who was watching me and boys and any of that, because I literally looked like a 10-year-old boy. So while everyone
Manny,
was...
You know that feeling, right?
Well, first of all, this facial hair don't.
You know that feeling,
don't okay, all right.
Well,
Continue, Carmen.
Ipsy was too busy, doing stuff in the bathroom and setting the trash cans on fire. Literally happened, actually. So it's not like I'm over here saying anything that isn't true. It literally happened. I was too busy playing basketball and listening to One Direction. And it was a great time. I think back and I have so many happy memories because I had people that said that were my friends and we went into basketball together, and then they dropped out. They didn't like it, and I stayed, and I didn't I knew who I was playing with, my team. I had grown up with them and everything, but I'm really glad that I didn't let hey, my friends stop going to basketball practice, so I don't want to go. I still went, and I am really, really happy that I stayed because I had a great time. I didn't play any sports in high school, to be honest with you. I was known as the ratchet Latina who would not shut the hell up and be loud to get attention. But I'm grateful to say that since then, I have, experienced new things and I'm not like that ratchet anymore.
Okay. So a question that frequently comes up here on the story of is, did you have Mexican friends? Now we know the answer to that. So did you have any black friends while going to school?
Me, I went to Ipsy. All of my friends were black. I barely had any Latina friends or Hispanic friends up until I started to hang out with them in ESL class in high school. But I had my best friend growing
Time out. Why did you take ESL, English as a second language? Why did you take it?
I would go there to skip and shout out Miss Sermon. She's a good person and had a great time in class. But growing up, my best friend was Nigerian. So I always hung out with her, and it was just me and her. And then in high school, I kind of drifted apart, and she went into STEM Tech, which was the bottom of the school. Was the first floor was STEM Tech, and then the second floor of Ipsy was just regular classes. And I just started to hang out with Hispanics, most specifically Amy. I know that you know her, Manny, so she was my best friend. And then I started to just hang around all the Hispanics and all the ESL kids, and I kind of fell in love because they were a lot more familiar with the struggles that came with being Hispanic, Mexican, and we related a lot more. And it was just being around family. So I really was appreciative of the ESL class that I had to go to every Wednesday. And I think they still have this program, I'm not sure, but we would gather every Wednesday for, I believe, an hour. And all of the entire ESL class, not just the Hispanics, but all of the people that were, I guess, ethnic and of ethnic background would have permission to go to the ESL room. And we would just stay in touch with our roots. We would help around the community. We would go to the farmer's market. We would go to the plant. I think it was the corner clinic over here, and just be informed about the safety of sex and stuff like that, and our resources, and it was amazing. So I'm very grateful for that. But I did not pay attention most of the time, and I was there to look at boys and to act a fool. So either way, it's a win-win.
During your ratchet years. However, the thing I want to look at, you guys are related. You guys are family. And he was talking about, do you have any Hispanic friends? Do you have any black friends? I want to get down to the bottom of something, too, because you guys are family, right? You got a lot of brothers and sisters, nephews, nieces, all that. You got a lot. You're a big family.
Right.
So I just want to make sure you guys are actually the same family. How tall are you?
I'm 5'1" and a half.
5'1" and a half.
And a half.
I'll have you.
I'm sorry, Manny. You had your turn. This is my turn. Thank you. Now is everyone in your family 5'1" and taller?
I'm the tallest person in my family. I think my brother's a little bit taller than me, but he's a short.
All right,
wow.
You guys could be related. All right, keep going. Go ahead. Go ahead.
But so I'm very grateful. When I transferred over to Huron, I still hung out with a lot of the family members because I had family members that went to Huron. But I also did hang out with the Hispanics and what they called, I think they still call it, because I still have a couple of friends that go to Huron. They call it the Beaner Corner. That's still a thing, and they're still very much in touch. So
I was a part of the Beaner Corner, Michael. You should know this. I was a part of the Beaner Corner. Well, here's the thing. Where I come from, Michael, there are two types of people. Either you are
Short
or
and
you
tall.
ain't. Okay.
All right.
Moving forward with this. You went to two districts, so to speak, during your school years. Two districts that are very close. You know, I was very active in the community, Washtenaw community, more specifically Ypsi. But I worked with a lot of youth from Ypsi back in my day. This was about, like 25 years ago. Anyway, what are some differences between, because you talked about Ypsi and people setting trash cans on fires and giving quickies in the bathroom and all that kind of nasty shit. And then you talk about, you know, all the Hispanics and all the people that you were sort of became family with at Huron. What are some differences between going into Ypsi High School, Ypsilanti High School, and going to an Ann Arbor High School?
So I feel like the biggest difference would be focusing on education. In Ypsi, a lot of them were focused, yes, on schooling, but regarding the school district, I feel like when I went to Ypsi High School, we were packed in classes and not given much attention to individual students who needed help. There wasn't a lot of resources that I felt like I could come to and ask for help when I felt like there might have been something wrong or I needed someone to talk to. There were a lot more focused on sports in Ypsi, very much so, where a lot of the money went to the athletic department. And you could tell. So, but I grew up with most of my peers since elementary school. Not a lot of us branched out and went to other schools. It was just mainly the same people that I went to elementary school and then middle school and then high school. So I definitely, and still to this day, have them on Facebook, and we are very much like a big family. But then going to Huron, you could tell that popularity was more a thing, and that was a bigger thing than it was at Ypsi, because nobody was popular. There was like people who played sports and obviously were well known, but other than that, you could sit wherever you wanted at lunch, you could talk to whoever, like everyone knew each other. Whereas at Huron, there was hundreds of students, and I felt very overwhelmed when I went to Huron. I felt like there was so many people, and I just wouldn't have ever been able to gotten to know them like I got to know the people from Ypsi. But that's why there was like little groups where the Arabics hung out with the Arabics and the Hispanics with the Hispanics, because we already knew each other outside of school. And then there was more grouped people where there was like they play sports and then they do band and stuff like that. So it was like a typical teen movie at Huron where everyone was in their own little group and didn't branch out. But I definitely felt a lot more paid attention to at Huron. I definitely felt like the resources were a lot more available, and the counselors were more in depth in contact with the students regarding their grades, their attendance, and their mental health. And I was very grateful to see that difference, because a lot of the times that I did go to the counselors for asking for help, or if I needed a break, there was a specific room. I don't know if you know the room that I'm talking about, next to the counselor's office, where you could just chill out there. And if you needed like a break from whatever you were going through, you could go in there at Huron. And I was very grateful for that, because I a lot of times did need to go in there and just stay there and have like a mental health check. And it was very, very nice to have that available.
Okay. I didn't know that's what I know what room you're referring to, but I did not know that's what that room was for. I always saw white kids going in there. I always thought it was like a meeting of the KKK or something, but I never bothered to go in there. So I guess this ties in with my next question. Michael, you know about them. All right. Anyway, this ties into my next question. You talked about being ratchet, but earlier you quickly mentioned, and we're not about to skip over that, about how you sort of got a little scholarship to get you started in your college career. And we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but how do you go from being a ratchet Latina, Hispanic, to being somebody that gets sort of economic support, scholarship money to attend college? How did you go from...
Let me stop you. It's so ironic because my last question was under the same thing. So keep that in mind. Let me just throw mine in there. That way you could just answer this whole ratchet era inside of one question. Okay? So we're not going to skip over it. It's funny that you say that because that was the exact thing. I was just like, how are we just going to just bring up ratchet and just not even really talk about that?
I can see what you're thinking. You got a big ass head.
Okay. First of all, when we say ratchet, I already know ratings about to go up once we talk about this. Because are we after midnight? Because it's about to get dark up in here. I'm for real. We're not going to skip over ratchet. Number one, define ratchet. Like, what made you ratchet? How did you get there? What made you transition to where it's like, oh, I'm about to be ratchet. I'm about to be out here being ratchet. And then what caused you to change to where you was like, no, I'm about to be in these books and study. I'm about to get good grades. Like, how did you transition both of these? Let's talk a little bit more about the ratchetness too when you get to it. But let's do this.
Right. So the ratchetness, I'm going to be honest with you. Like I mentioned earlier, I was very, very much into being my own person in middle school and focusing on, I had really good grades. I was, I think, on the principal's like awards and stuff like that. And I was always involved with school activities at IPSI. And I had a lot of Black friends. And I had friends who influenced like what I listened to and what I watched and who I hung out with and stuff like that. So when I went to IPSI, and I was transitioning from like 8th grade to 9th grade, I looked like a 10-year-old boy. And then I got my period. So starting...
Manny, you know about...
okay, go
You're
ahead.
going to hear me out. So
yes.
Starting 9th grade, I believe like the ending of 9th grade is when I like started to develop and I started to look, cuter. And I still kept the Mexican tradition of not having an ass, but my boobs came in. And so I was around guys. I met guys at IPSI and stuff like that. And I noticed that like the more I showed out, the more attention I would get. And that's where the ratchetness came from, where I noticed that, hey, obviously I'm not the curviest girl and I'm not, the prettiest girl because I was still literally a child. I'm going to act out for the attention. I'm funny, I'm loud, and you're going to pay attention to me. And then my grades started to drop, and my older sister noticed that. She noticed that my grades started to drop, that I was posting more on Facebook, that I wanted to hang out with guys, that I was starting to smoke weed, and she didn't beat the fuck out of me, but she most definitely wanted to. And I was put in a position where I was like, hey, either you get your shit together or these are the consequences. And I just like that got my shit together at Huron. And yeah, I skipped a little bit more because it was more accessible for us too because of the lunch, but I graduated and when I went to WCC, I applied for any type of scholarships, and my ESL teacher, because I never took ESL, the ESL teacher at IPSI gave me an amazing letter of recommendation for this scholarship. And thanks to Liz Sermon, shout out to you, I got the scholarship at WCC, and I got the whole year. I believe it was a year or a year and a half. I think it was 2 years, but I definitely got a scholarship and I was able to go to WCC. And unfortunately, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I didn't take it seriously. I didn't because of the scholarship. I was like, it's no biggie. If I fail this class, I'll just pay for it later. Like, I was so intertwined with my mental health and what was going on around me that we'll get into in later episodes.
Absolutely.
That it just affected me to the point where I was like, hey, no matter what I do, I'm going to fail this class. I'm just going to stop trying right now. And unfortunately, my mental health got to me, and I let it affect me to the point where I didn't think of the opportunities that I had in front of me were important, and I didn't take it as seriously as I should have. But acknowledgement is the first step. And I just want everyone to know that, like, there's people around that can do whatever they want whenever they want it, you most definitely have the opportunity to do whatever you want. Go back to school, do what you got to do. It's always possible. And don't ever think that you're not able to do something, because you'd be surprised of what you're capable of.
And there it is. You know, I'm just going to wrap things up here. We've learned so much about who you are. And, you know, I also have to wrap things up because there's plenty of beds that need to be, you know.
Michael, you need to wake up and smell the sheets. You know
laundry
you know
that may need to be folded. And we need to get right into that. But you talked about music, and the whole thing is, now that I have both of you guys on here, two Mexicans, I cannot leave on any note than making sure that you feel right at home. So.
Okay.
Volume. I remember.
Yeah, first of all, fix your audio issues. Turn the music up.
I'll turn it up, Simon.
Cinco de Mayo is coming up.
It is.
Anyways, Michael.
I just figured, I mean, you may not watch the show, but that is part of our theme at the end of the show. I just felt like you would feel right at home if I go ahead. I do it for Manny so he feels right at home since he's not here. He's inside the heart of Mexico. But we've learned so much about you, and I can't wait to jump into your next episode. In all honesty, we're going to learn the story of Carmen, but I feel like we should do a season after that where we just learn about your ratchet years and everything that you did there. So keep that in mind. We can do a whole ratchet episode. We'll just call it the story of ratchetness, or the story of the ratchet girl, off the chain, Hispanic girl. You know, whatever we do, we'll make it do what it do.
Moment.
But thank you so much. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell, do all that jazz. And if you ever want to be a guest on the show, hit us up and let us know, and we'll get you put on. As for now, we will see you guys next week.